So I found my sample ballot.
You did?
I did.
Okay. So you went online to...
I just searched on Safari, Mexico.
It's the Secretary of State's website.
It's like votenm.org
yeah, I think
or com or something?
votenm.org will get you there. You can go to...
It's like SOS dot whatever.
Okay.
I just Googled.
So what did it ask you in order to bring up your ballot? It asked for your name?
First name, last name, date of birth, and county.
And county. And then with that information...
Then it tells you, like, all your districts.
Okay.
And it'll show you what party you're registered under if you are registered as in a party.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then you click on the left-hand side, and it had, like, it says, like, my districts, my polling location, my sample ballot, my absentee application and ballot tracker, my voting history, and my county clerk.
Okay.
And you click on whichever one.
So there's actually a lot of information there, and it's pretty easy to figure out how to participate.
How to vote and do that. Because right now, absentee in person, or is it in-person absentee, is right now. That's going on right now. And then is it this weekend that the
I think it's
early voting starts?
Where you can go down to the...
That's on there, too.
Okay.
I just saw it.
You can go to the clerk's office and vote.
But you can go to the clerk's office and vote now. But you're voting in-person absentee.
Right.
And my question is, so does that difference determine when your vote is counted?
I'm not sure. That's a really good question.
Like if I vote in person, we should probably have somebody on from the clerk's office to explain.
Darlene would do it.
Yeah.
But if you vote in-person absentee, you're requesting and receiving your absentee ballot. Does it go in an envelope and then it sits in a pile to be counted on election night?
I would imagine.
But when you vote early, you get your ballot and it goes into the machine and it's tabulated right then and there, I think.
We'll get information for next week. That and the OSU cowpoke, whatever story.
Whatever the cowpoke is.
Yeah.
So, and when we finished the hour, we were talking about the upcoming elections, and you were telling me off air that some people are also thinking that the municipal election is this year, but it's not.
That's right. So the state has pushed hard on moving all the local elections, the school boards, the hospital districts, the municipal elections to November to fall into the same routine as all the other voting that you would do. They have not mandated it, though. So our hospital district, our school board, obviously we know you vote for them now in November, that first Tuesday in November. City elections for our city council will be in March, as they have been.
Okay.
For a long time. So we have had a lot of questions about that. People are concerned, who are the candidates? Isn't it too late? Whatever. And the truth is that will all take place in early March. I think the filing day is like January, early January, first week in January, I think. And then the elections will be the first Tuesday in March.
And there's two steps to the filing, too. There's a day if you want to run, you can go get your candidate packet. Mm-hmm. And then there's a day that you have to have your packet turned in order to be on the ballot.
Yes, and you turn that in on that day.
On that day.
You have to turn it in on that day.
Right. Local election campaign watchers like to find out who picked up packets.
Yeah, because
and then they like to find out who turned in their packet.
Yes.
To see. Because just because you get a packet doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go ahead and turn it in.
Yeah, you can pick up a packet and not do anything with it. Yeah, there'll always be gossip about that. And
of course.
And then filing day is on a certain day, and that's when you turn in your packet.
Right.
And then there's a certain period of time after that you can become a write-in candidate.
Correct. So, which happened with George Mullen
was a write-in candidate.
So George apparently, for whatever reason, the people that officially turned in packets, okay, I'm going to run. And he ran as a write-in candidate.
He decided to run. He felt like he had the time and the commitment to do it. And he ran and worked really hard at it. So that does go to show that you can you can win as a write-in candidate. You just generally have to put a lot more work into it.
It's rare, but it does.
It's rare, but it does happen.
It does happen. But that is in March.
That
of
is
this
in
coming
March.
year.
That is in March. The mayor is up for election and 4 council seats. So if you take a look, like if you go on the city's website and look at the city council, we're divided into 4 districts, and each district has 2 councilors, and 1 councilor from each district is up every 2 years.
Right.
Or their terms are 4 years, but every other year we have an election for
Right.
the other 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's but that's coming up.
That'll be in March.
In
so
March,
stay
yeah.
tuned for that, because I think, like our school board elections and all the other races that you're watching around the country, I think, they'll probably all, or at least most of them, will be contested races.
Well, there's a number of issues that they're national issues, but they've been made
They've become local
They
issues.
become local issues.
And there is something to be said for that. City council, school boards, hospital boards, they have certain powers, and then there are certain things that they can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Their hands are tied in certain situations, but it is always easier to become active and vocal at the local level, where you know the people who are in office and or just have access to them a little bit
Yeah.
better. You get up to the state level, and most of us know our state representative and our senators, but not everybody, and you don't necessarily know how to find them, and you don't know for sure what district you're in, and it just starts to get a little more complicated and a little more intimidating.
Sure. And some of your state officials and your congressional officials are a little more accessible than others.
So in our area, they are. They're very accessible, and our representatives and senators at the state level are everyday people, very willing to talk to anybody and very accessible to anyone. But it's not that way everywhere.
Right.
And then, of course, when you get to the federal level, that gets even more difficult.
Sure it does.
Yeah. So
Now, next year's also going to be important, and I don't know how much you've been following this. I know other people have been. This is a redistricting year.
yes.
And there has been a committee that gathered information, heard from people all over the state, and then has started to propose some different district alignments.
So go to nmredistricting.org and you can
Okay.
see those maps. Unfortunately, Friday was the last day to comment
Okay.
on those maps. You could submit a map. They really encouraged kind of more organizations to do that as opposed to individuals, but you could submit a map. They had tools so that you could take the current maps and move things around. So there are 3 maps you're looking at. One is the Congressional Map, which is districts 1, 2, and 3 at the federal level. That's, our representative is Yvette Harrell. And then you have the state Senate and the state House of Representatives.
Okay.
And those maps are a little bit more complicated to understand because you get almost down to addresses, where are the boundaries for your state rep and for your senators and all that. But very interesting, and a lot of maps, and you can see, those have to be divided out by population numbers, but you can see political activism in those maps and the intention at times to try to make it difficult for one party or the other to take hold.
And they tend to look at the districts and say, well, this is a Republican district or this is a Democrat district. And I thought, well, what happened to just kind of dividing it up by people? And this goes back to some of the civil rights activities from 15, 20, 30 years ago. You can't compact and you can't crack or whatever it is. And so you can't take, say, one minority interest and put all of that interest in one district.
Right.
And you can't supposedly dilute a particular minority by spreading it all out. So there has to be that factored into it. But then you have people like the Speaker of the House after Yvette Harrell won, who said out loud and publicly, well, we're going to rewrite that district so that never happens again.
Yes, and there is a movement to do that, and you can see that. It's very plain. So they had this committee the citizens committee had a series of meetings, and they took public comment and all of that. They will make recommendations to the state legislature. But the state legislature can just throw it all out. I mean, they don't have to. They can do whatever they want.
They weren't bound by.
They're not bound by this
adopting
committee.
any of the citizen
right.
committee
So,
recommendations.
You would hope that they would take very serious consideration to that committee's recommendations, because it is a bipartisan committee. They have, they've. I would argue that they've put a lot of time into listening to a lot of people around the state and studying these maps and looking at the numbers and all of that. And you would hope that they've been fair in their assessment. And I think they probably have. But if the legislature has a different agenda,
And remember
what the Citizens Committee recommends doesn't really matter.
Sure.
So this brings me to my last point on this, and that is, I think it will be December 6th that the state legislature will have a special session just for this issue.
Okay. Because they got the pot thing taken care of, so they don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, so we're just going to have a series of special sessions to take care of all of our business.
That's right.
And I've asked our Representative Townsend if there will be an opportunity for public comment. He's not been through this process before, but he thinks surely there would be. We'll just have to pay attention to that, because that may be the time that everybody gets active about that. Especially knowing that Speaker Egoff did publicly, openly, unabashedly,
Yeah, it wasn't rumored that he said it. It wasn't overheard at the Pink Pony or whatever.
He said that. It was in a news story. And whether he'll follow through on that or not is a different matter. Whether he's got enough people to vote, how he, whatever, he's got to line some things up, I suppose. But he has the ability. So I think it'll be very important if there's an opportunity for the public to comment during that special session, that everybody take part in it.
Yeah. Somebody told me one of the versions of the map takes Townsend and
Catherine Brown,
and puts them in the same district.
That's true.
And I said, well, that's one way to eliminate
one of
the opposition that you're trying to get rid of.
Yes.
is to take two and put it into one, and then those two individuals have to make a decision, because I'm sure they don't want to run against each other for the same seat. So you got to keep an eye on some of that stuff.
And that's where it gets more difficult, because those boundaries they're a little bit more down in the weeds. It's a lot harder to look at that, and you really have to know the area. That did happen to Dennis Kintai 10 years ago. He's now the mayor of Roswell, but back in the day, he was a state representative, and he got redistricted out. And he and another, at the time, current state representative had to decide whether they would run against each other.
Well, in the last cycle, there was the senators. There was...
I think that happened to Tim Jennings, too, didn't it?
It did, but in this last election cycle, there were two... Republicans that had to run or maybe one of them chose to run in the Senate. That was anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that was some shifting from the House to the Senate.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, but 10 years ago, that did happen. There was some redistricting that kind of pushed some folks out, and including Dennis Kintai, who's now the mayor. And so I guess that all worked out. But
well, I think the film industry didn't like Kintai. Well, he was not a big fan of the subsidies.
The subsidies for film, yeah.
So I think that Hollywood jumped in on that one, maybe.
You need to pay attention. It's actually this is a very big deal.
Yes.
For us.
Yeah.
And will set the stage for what happens over the next 10 years.
Yeah. Because we're already outnumbered and outgunned now when it comes to and when I say I mean Southeast New Mexico, our viewpoint being given consideration in Santa Fe. And so it's one thing to say we're going to elect people that represent our values to the legislature, but it's just a small chunk compared to the rest of the state. And then if they tweak the districts to where we're infighting and lose some representation.
Right. And it's super interesting that, when you look at the census, the Albuquerque area, Las Cruces, and then Lee and Eddy counties are the only areas of the state that grew.
Right. So we shouldn't have less representation.
less.
Yeah, we should have
We
the
should
same
have
or more.
Yeah.
And it's just it's the battle that we face. And so regardless of what your opinion is, say for example on the school board with the mask mandates and the critical race theory, the social studies deal, the fact is we have a state board of education with a public education secretary who has this overarching authority,
Right.
who's appointed by the governor.
The governor.
The voters in the state of New Mexico voted to go to that process a few years ago. Who would have thunk
Yeah.
that this would have been one of the ramifications of that decision? I think there
Right.
were probably other factors that were involved that made the case for going to the system that we're in now. But now when you look at what's going on around the country today, it doesn't make sense.
Right. Very
So
tricky.
in addition to having your opinion and expressing yourself when it comes to the school board election or whatever, that really has to be the primary focus. How do we make changes there? Because ultimately that's where the control is being doled out. And I don't know, short of my New Mexit, me and Aaron Irving's New Mexit strategy where we just form our own state and leave,
Yeah.
that's part of the challenge that we face in
It
this
sure is.
upcoming election year. So
And get to know, though, if you're in a district that has a school board election, get to know them because city elections, school board elections are not partisan
right.
elections. So,
Not generally.
Well, not generally. I mean, technically they are not.
Correct.
You
correct.
do not have to state your party, all of that. It's just about what your approach to that position and what you believe.
Right.
So get to know those guys. I mean, you might be surprised. You just don't know.
Yeah.
Unless
Well, that's good. That's good in any election is
That
to
is
get to
good in
know the
any
candidates
election,
because
right.
before you go in and vote, you should
You
at
should
least
know your
the candidates.
You absolutely should. Now,
Yeah.
when you get to the county level and then up beyond that to the state and all that, it's partisan, and
Mm-hmm.
you can decide how you want to make your decisions on voting. But at the local level, it's not that, and so I think it's really important. And I kind of like that actually because it keeps people. I feel like it sort of keeps people together a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's going to be very interesting
It
to
will
see.
be.
And I think we've interviewed a few of the candidates. We have another one coming in later this hour. And then that leaves 3 of the candidates for the school board that we have not yet talked to, but we've got plans to talk to at least 2 of them. So if we can twist the arm of that last one and say, get down here, then all of the candidates will have been on the radio
Yeah.
prior to this election. So
Very important.
It'll be a good deal. All right, what else?
I think that's it.
This weekend's Art and Park.
Oh yeah,
It
yeah,
is Art in the Park.
this
That's
weekend.
right.
Friday from 4 to 9 and Saturday from 9 to 4.
And it's not
At
in
JC
Central Park. It's in
at
JC Park.
And the
Yeah.
weather's looking beautiful. Like
Yes.
70 both days, I think, or something like that. I mean,
Perfect.
just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful days.
Yeah.
So,
And it's a
lots to do.
two-day festival too.
Yes.
Right. It's a little different this year, and I think they're planning on having some music out there and some other activities.
You're going to
Friday
be out
evening.
there, right?
Well, the trailer's going to be out there.
Okay.
Sean's going to be out
Okay.
there. I'm going to be at the Wool Bowl Friday night.
Oh, you've got football.
Got a football game.
Foosball.
That's right. And Saturday, I may be back at the Wool Bowl. We're still trying to work that out. We thought we had a play-by-play guy picked for the Bronco game Saturday, but then there's some things that have come up that he might not be available. And so I called Mike Winters and I said, we're plan D. So if this doesn't work out, and this doesn't work out, and this doesn't work out, that they get us. So I may be doing a football game at the Wool Bowl Saturday too. So we'll see. But
Fun.
but Sean will be out there,
Cool.
and
It'll be a fun weekend, I think. I'm excited to see how it's laid out. I mean, I saw the map that she did for it, but just to see it's all the way into the park, and it's just going to
Oh,
be
wow.
so cool. Like where they have all the little structures where you can sit and have a picnic. So it starts right there, kind of in that, where there's like that playground, and then it works its way west towards the new
Did you
turf.
see how she figured out her direction?
I did. I was like, what was that?
Never eat soggy waffles. Isn't that how you do it?
Oh,
Finding-
okay.
So
I just
north-
know that if you're looking right, west and east spells we.
Oh yeah.
And north is always up. You just know that.
It's always up. Yeah. Never eat soggy waffles.
And the Good Witch was from...
East.
The Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah, so the Good Witch was from
The East.
the East. That's
East,
right.
like eastern New Mexico.
So it works its way west into the park.
Okay.
All of the booths. And gosh, last count, which was this past Saturday, she was already in the 120s.
Wow.
Some of them are doubles,
Okay.
but for the most part, it's
Yeah,
going to be
she's got a lot of booths.
Yeah, so go start your
And-
holiday shopping now.
Okay.
And support
Okay,
the
he
event.
says
the
okay.
ladies have
Sounds
worked
good.
hard.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Super excited for them.
All right. Well, thank you so much for
Thanks.
coming in. Thanks for the election news update. And folks,
fun with
get
Aaron.
out and vote.
Get out and vote.
Get out and vote.
Get out and vote.
That's right.
Now's the time.
That's right. Vote, or as we used to say in Alabama and Mississippi, vote early and vote often.
Yeah.
Never tell that one story. We'd moved from Canton to Brookhaven, and I changed my voter location and all that kind of stuff. Got everything shifted from Madison County. Yeah, like, the bridges of Madison County to Lincoln County. And a guy running for one of the offices in the town I used to live in, who I knew, calls me up and he says, "What's your address?" And I gave my address. I said, "What are you going to send me?" He said, "I'm going to send you a ballot."
Oh.
I said, "Well, I've already changed my voter info." He said, "That's okay. We'll take care of it."
Oh,
Oh dear.
awesome.
Sounds like fun.
So
Sounds like Georgia.
I could have voted twice.
Yeah.
I could have voted twice.
Yes.
In that election, but I didn't. I declined the offer.
I'd be way too scared
Oh.
to do anything like that. Must follow rules.
No, I should have done it. No, I just. All right.